Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back another video from Nux Taku. So, this is an old one from his channel. Ever since watching the O'Hara theory video, I was like, ooh, let's check out some more theory videos, and I don't know how relevant this will be now, but I think it's got a lot to do with Skypiea. Everywhere seems to come back to Skypiea. The whole outer space thing, the only thing I can think of is that the front cover stories we see of the bad guy from Skypiea when he's on the moon and that, so let's see where Nux went with this one in 2018. Shall we?
As the One Piece tale progresses, every arc is set up so it has its own enclosed, awesome story. But also
definitely.
It serves the purpose to broaden the breadth of
Yes,
the
it's
entire
all
universe.
linked.
Furthermore, while I feel like I'm learning a great deal about the One Piece world, as every arc passes by, there are a lot more questions that keep popping up and a lot more mysteries yet to be
Yeah,
explained.
it's so boss. I love it.
Which, at least thus far, being what happened in the Void Century, what is this Will of D,
Yeah.
what/where is the One Piece, and that's among many other unsolved questions.
Laugh tail.
Curious motivations interesting characters have possessed thus far. The purpose of this theory is to tie everything major together. So despite me being majorly a satire or analysis channel, and I personally believe there to be a large difference between a theory and a prediction, this isn't going to be trying to predict what's going to happen.
Strange choice of clips, but okay.
Or who's going to face off against whom. This is
Right.
what I believe
Chopper
to be
against
the
Katakuri, could you imagine?
culmination of the entire One Piece series. It ties every mystery together into a little bow to just such a perfect extent that I wholeheartedly believe this to be the climax of the entire One Piece series that Oda envisioned from the get-go.
Okay.
And that's because I only do theory videos if I honestly and legitimately believe that theory to be correct.
Awesome.
In all honesty, I'm legit super proud of this video and I can barely contain my excitement. I was waiting to upload this for a really long time. The only thing stopping me from doing this months ago was the dozens of hours of research required to look at this narrative from as
Because there is a
many
lot
angles as I can.
going on, so yeah.
Let's just jump into it. Speaking of Oda, as we all know, Oda had an ending thought out to this
Yeah,
series
he already
right
knows
when
how
it
it's going to end,
began.
doesn't he?
So,
Yeah.
I don't believe that ending was knocked off by any events that actually took place, especially because that ending, at least if it's what I believe it to be, is freaking beautiful. So, what I'm going to mention is likely to be his thought process from the very beginning, slowly building his way there, building mysteries that are just waiting to get solved. So, let's get down to business.
Cool.
I hope you're ready to have your mind blown, because I'm giddy with pride that I put all this together. It took a long time. This is possibly the proudest any video I've ever made has made me due to the sheer research and scope. And it all sprouted from a tiny idea where more and more curious and unexplained details fit into place. If you don't want to get spoiled and would rather wait 10 years for this to actually
Yeah.
be real, then honestly, that's your prerogative. Pardon my pretentiousness, but I'm about to prove to you that the climax of the entire One Piece franchise will take place in outer space. Damn, I'm starting to feel more like a conspiracy theorist.
It's weird, because I remember seeing this video on his channel and thinking, what? That sounds ridiculous. Isn't it pirates in the sea? And then,
One Piece ain't on
kinda
planet Earth.
could.
The final battle may not be there either. If anyone has any issues or additions, let me know in the comments.
Okay.
And if any watching YouTubers want to talk to me about it, really, just hit me up on Twitter. I'm more than happy to. Ready? Buckle up, boys and girls and others. Hashtag gender equality. Let's just jump into it. As I've mentioned, every single arc up till this point expanded the universe and added pieces to the grand scale puzzle of the One Piece world.
Yep.
The only seeming exception to this rule is the Skypiea arc. There were no warlords of the sea, there were none of the four emperors, no members of the world government, and no particular character advancement as far as strength or accumulating new crew members.
I suppose, yeah.
This is the least favorite arc of
They didn't
the
have to do anything to
people,
beat him
and I
different either,
believe
did they? Yeah,
that's
because Luffy was
because
just his
it almost
weakness.
felt like filler. Yes, I know a lot of people liked it, but that's for totally other reasons that I will get to in another video. This will become, in retrospect, one of the most important arcs of the entire narrative, and I believe I barely need to draw attention to this because I'm sure everyone is familiar with the canon tale of Enel's journey on the moon. From those cover arcs and his interactions with the civilization there.
Yeah.
And I believe that was purely done to subconsciously place the thought of extraterrestrial life as well as the hype of Enel's eventual return.
Yeah,
This
like, he's
means
still
the
not back,
moon
like,
is
what the hell?
habitable to some capacity, which which will play an important role a little later in this theory, which we will definitely be getting back to later. The other exceedingly important detail in the Skypiea arc is that Robin mentioned in chapter 261 about the ancient city that fell, that was coincidentally destroyed in the Void Century, which will be the major turning point in history, and of course will also pertain to Luffy's final battle. We'll be getting back to Skypiea, but much more elaboration elsewhere is first required, because that's more than enough setup I need to start getting into the meat and potatoes.
Meat and
the celestial
potatoes?
dragons are the meat and potatoes.
Oh, there we go. Yeah,
This
yeah.
isn't an explained video, and I'm therefore not going to pad out this theory with a ton of info you already know, since that's kind of boring for all of us.
Yeah, if it being a theory video, you're already knowledgeable on One Piece to check it out.
Yeah. Theorist on YouTube is make them shorter, people. If it can be summed up in 2 minutes or less, it doesn't need to be 10 minutes or more. Not calling anyone out, especially because my intro to this video is ridiculously long.
There you go, I was gonna say.
Making it. I understand. I'm a bit hypocritical, and now I'm rambling. Moving on. Anywho, the celestial dragons, who I will now be calling the dragons since celestial is 3 goddamn syllables, are the nobles of the world.
Yes.
They not only play the system correctly, but the system is seemingly built
Around them, yeah, they can do whatever they want.
royalty,
It's,
and the reign
I
of
hate
these
seeing them on screen.
dragons seemingly arose since the Void Century, where their ancestors came to power in a fashion unknown to the current world. But it was a war cataclysmic enough to not only take over the world with an iron-handed authoritarian government, but they successfully not just shifted historical perspective like most victors of massive wars do, but they managed to erase history entirely. Well, not entirely. They strangely enough weren't able to destroy the poneglyphs scattered throughout the world, and they stated that their reasoning behind erasing history was to stop anyone from finding, let alone using, the ancient weapons, which I will be mentioning later on. But Old Library Dude, yes, that is his name, doubted this and stated that it's the existence and idea of that kingdom that the current world government was at war with that actually presents the threat to the current world government. And the remnant of that kingdom is the Will of D. Before he was able to actually mention the name of this ancient kingdom, he was immediately executed, as the name enough is powerful and can possibly shift a balance of power. As we all know, Oda puts a lot of time into the fine details as
Yes,
well,
he does, which I really appreciate. I think it's great. Everywhere he goes, he builds the world and that.
To give a perspective on the character's past, or in his intention in what to do with that character. Basically, every single island is an example of this, and my second favorite, just to give you an example, is Dressrosa, representing the Spanish, as I explained in my other One Piece theory video, the entire Wano climax, the purpose of law, and the narrative link in the description, whatever.
Okay.
The point is, Oda really cares about his details. They're cute and usually go unnoticed by a quick read-through as a gimmick for flair. Okay, here's part 1 of the theory. In this Void Century, the dragons came from space, very likely the moon, and subjugated the Blue Sea, trying to wipe out history of this invasion, hence the Void Century. Hence the ceremonial garb of the dragons being spacesuits.
Yeah, they do look like spacesuits, don't they? Yeah.
Helmets and everything. This is no coincidence, and it's written in beautiful Oda style, because at first glance, we saw these dragons with those helmets, and we all thought, oh look, those noble freaks don't even want to breathe the same air as those lowly commoners. Don't know about you guys, but I sure as hell took it for granted that that was the case. But hidden in plain sight is a treasure waiting to be unearthed. And obviously, hiding a century of history ain't fun or easy, and it's hard to think of a better reason why they would actually go through that trouble to do so. I can't imagine the world respecting them if this was found out, and they are not of the same planet originally. But here comes part 2 of the theory, and that's the Will of D. It's, yes, to defeat the dragons, as Doflamingo mentioned, and yes, it's really cute that the letter D looks like a crescent moon, but primarily, the Will of D is passed on to those who can stand up to these dragons and become the Pirate King. And now here's the overlap between them. Becoming the Pirate King, according to Luffy, is to become the freest man on the sea, which Rayleigh insinuated was the thought process of Roger as well.
Yeah.
Freedom can only be obtained by understanding the truth of your surroundings. And unlike a king who fails and takes freedom to himself, the Pirate King needs to make his people free from the shackles of an invasive government, so the biggest threat to the dragons are the D's. Law, Luffy, Dragon, Blackbeard, which is why Blackbeard in no way can remain the final enemy. And no, I'm not saying they'll all ally up, but the final battle will be against the tip and peak of the
Interesting. Okay, yeah, because it does seem like he's building up to make Blackbeard the main villain, but if they don't do that, that'd be an interesting twist as well.
He was not enough to take back his world. So, his final moments began began the Great Pirate Era fighting this so-called One Piece at the end of the path that the poneglyphs point to, which in turn forces whoever obtains the One Piece to, by default, learn the truth and past of the world and bear arm against the oppressors. So, if that was his plan, so he really set up the chase in a fashion that it can only really be concluded by making a ton of allies and becoming the strongest pirate force. I will be covering the meaning of a One Piece pirate in a future video. Not for now, it's not really a theory, it's more of an analysis.
Okay.
And by default, this new king will have to learn all of history. That's how Roger passed on his will of D. The only others that seemingly knew the One Piece's location throughout the story took fascinating actions with this knowledge. Whitebeard emboldened the search for the One Piece, establishing its existence.
Yeah, he tells everyone, it's like, it exists,
despite never claiming it as his own. And Rayleigh did something brilliant that at first worried me. When he told Luffy, oh, I'll tell you where the One Piece is, which would basically foil Roger's entire
and he's like, nah,
legacy.
don't do that.
I thought about it, and I was kind of really content with Rayleigh's word choice, because it really further connects the dots here. Here's part 4 of the theory,
okay, cool.
Because the One Piece is in outer space, and that's where the search for it will end. It doesn't matter if Rayleigh tells them, because they still have to find the poneglyphs to get there. Not negating Roger's plan in the slightest, and if it would be anywhere else, of course Rayleigh wouldn't have been able to say anything. Telling anyone its destination undermines Roger, because they'll find it in a week, and telling them it's on Raftel doesn't help either, because that's where everyone's best bet is. Whether the One Piece is symbolic and doesn't really exist, a key, or the moon itself, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's cute that the
treasure you friends you've made along the way.
Because just like the One Piece series to us fans is about the adventure, not the destination, that's the actual plot of the One Piece narrative too, because by the time they obtain the quote-unquote One Piece, they'll actually be ready for the finale of their adventure, because they united the good in the world to stand up against these oppressors and fight for freedom. That is the will of D. That's the truth of the Celestial Dragons. That's the secret of the Void Century. That's the true purpose of Roger's proclamation of the One Piece. And that's a climax to a series that Oda could have legitimately thought of before writing the first chapter.
Yeah, man. Interesting.
This is kind of the short version of the theory, because I don't want to bore you with how every little mysterious bit of lore wraps up looking at the story from this perspective, especially because most of these things, if you think about it, are plainly obvious at this point. And
so this theory is claiming that the One Piece is on the moon. But O'Hara's theory is that it's underneath Eni's lobby.
It's clear, as I mentioned, about how Library Dude, who talks about the previous kingdom, and how the Tontada tribes said that this previous kingdom loved and was beloved by all these other races, as opposed to the dragons who call fishmen fish, livestock, or monsters. If Luffy demonstrated anything throughout his journey...
Very interesting points about the Celestial Dragons brought up there as well, yeah.
The locations of all the poneglyphs, which were from the ancient kingdom, were in the location of non-humans as well, fishmen, Zoe, etc., where Poseidon, one of the ancient weapons, is not only a non-human, but a non-human that felt awfully friendly towards
Neptune,
Luffy.
isn't it? Not
And El's journey to the moon broadened
yeah, and that's
horizons and
the big girl, the king's
sharing
daughter
information
from Fishman Island,
gathered.
yeah.
And speaking of, there's reason to believe that the archaeology of Shandura and the poneglyphs were made from some indestructible material, not from the earth.
So from the
moon, Skypiea, especially in regard to the Golden Bell, used by a mysterious ancient civilization that fell in the Void Century. The word choice "fell" is fascinating, and I asked one of our very own...
Okay, yeah, I mean, could have just meant came down from...
Best guy ever, and his take on it was metaphoric falling, as the city became depopulated and the society itself fell. But in a literal sense, the peeps that hit the poneglyph in the bell may have actually fallen from a place above this sky island.
Interesting.
The three ancient weapons that we don't really understand their role in history, aside from the fact that the world government seems to really be afraid of them. They're called Uranus, a planet from outer space, Pluton, based off Pluto,
oh yeah,
this week
they're all
from outer space,
after planets.
And Poseidon, the Roman word for that is Venus, a planet from outer space, etc. I could go on.
Okay.
I might eventually do so in another video, since I gathered a crap ton of info in the research stage that long...
I mean, yeah, they all named after, like, planets,
but I really wanted
so...
to get my point across in the most bite-sized video possible, sparing all the details of the past and details that will surely come to play in the future. Also, as I mentioned, this is theory, not prediction.
Yeah.
Like, a prediction would be, I'm of the mind that it's extremely likely Luffy's gonna die at the end, creating a new era just like Roger did. However, it'll be an era of freedom, not an era of danger. That's
Right, okay, yeah,
prediction.
completely changes
This is my
the
ultimate
world.
theory on the Piece narrative. Details obviously can and probably are slightly off. Make what you will of this whole thing. Feel free to freak out every time you see a dragon in a spacesuit, because that little fact blew my YouTube.
Yeah, that's actually
mind
quite
when I
interesting
told them.
take, yeah.
But Oda's gonna still throw some big-ass wrenches in the tale we think we finally begin to understand, and these wrenches we're waiting for are going to be integral to the entire story that Oda planned since Ground Zero. This adventure is far from over, fam. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I apologize if I got a little too melodramatic in this video. It's just a really meaningful one to me. Thanks for sticking around. Feel free to like if you enjoyed. Subscribble if you want more. Analysis, satire, theory, whatever I decide to do. I'd really appreciate it if you actually shared this theory. I don't usually ask for shares, even though obviously I always want you guys to share it. That's always awesome.
Of
But
course.
this theory especially, I would really like to see conversation about it, because this is kind of the biggest thing I've seen anyone come up with for One Piece. I could be wrong, and I'm obviously biased, but any YouTuber
That O'Hara
watching, I'm really
like
curious to hear
theory
your
was something
opinions
else.
in video format even, and every watcher, the comment section is all yours. I truly thank you for giving me the opportunity to voice my opinion on this. Love you guys, and I hope this video was to your expectation, and I didn't hype it up too much. I legit love all of you guys, and remember to stay weird, fam.
I don't think it's going to do the changey thing. Good video, good video. It's nice to watch old Nux Taku videos and him talking about anime. Because I know I mentioned it a few times. There was a Nux Taku parody video that I was working on, and I just postponed it for a while because of all the drama going on with Nux and that. I didn't want it to be perceived as, like, you know, maybe joining in on the attack or trying to gain from said things going on. So I've put that off until, I don't know, giving it a few months, and then it's just going to come out of nowhere. And yeah. But anyway, that was a good theory video. I like that. Very interesting points made that I never really thought of, especially with the Celestial Dragons with their space helmets. It's like, huh, and where the poneglyphs, like the material, like where did it come from, and all that other stuff. That's cool. So yeah, thanks to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video uploaded, links in the description of the Patreon page. $1 a month or less helps support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much for that, and thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe, and leave comments down below. Let me know if you watch us in future videos, and I'll see you guys, all you guys, next time.